I talked about it in the comments on the previous video when I worked on that Sansui FRD45 about making this turntable manual compatible, and this time I'm going to do it. I'm going to show you guys how to take one of these turntables and convert it from manual operation, because eventually this mechanism does wear out. They're very difficult to fix, and hey, having a manual turntable is cool. It's a lot quicker than waiting for a mechanism. It's hot as hell today. It's like 30 degrees out. I really don't feel like doing any work, but I thought maybe today would be a great opportunity to attempt to modify this turntable that I spent way too much time on making it work, so that I can turn it into a manual turntable. Because as you know, with these clutches, the way that these clutches are, it's not going to be a long-term repair. So I thought maybe, as you can see, this turntable's got this is the sensors for the optical sensors for record size selection. So how it works is a light beam shines out and it's picked up by photo transistors below, which I blocked when I was servicing it before. This is the mat for it. Anyway, I thought, wouldn't it be cool if I could set this up in such a way that as soon as you turn on the power, it will just start to rotate. That way, you could just use it as a manual turntable. Play to the end, pick it up, right? Well, it could be simpler. Then we don't have to worry about the actual automatic circuit failing. Of course, if you want to use the automatic circuit, you turn it on, the thing starts turning, and you can still press the buttons. I got no power on here now, but you can press the buttons, and it would operate automatically if you wanted to do the automatic thing. But it would continue to turn constantly. That's the idea. And that way, one doesn't have to worry, because the problem with this design, and it's such a poor design, is that when this mechanism fails, which they all do, this is the second one that I've seen recently, they all fail. And when the rubber parts dry up, get slippery, clutches fail, which you can't get anymore, the turntable basically becomes a piece of junk, because you press the start stop button, it'll start to turn, and then it stops. You can't play it. You can't pick the arm up. It will not start to play when you pick up the arm. It'd be nice if you could pick up the arm and it would start to spin when you picked up the arm. That's not the case on this type of design. But I think we can probably make it so that either when you pick up the arm using the optical sensors, we can start it to play, or I can wire it so that it'll always play when the power's on. Now, I've got the schematics here. There's basically two different types of motors that were used on this one. One of them uses just what's called a V servo, voltage servo, direct drive motor, and the other one uses a frequency generator, so a servo motor. So I don't know which one this particular unit has, because say they use both types. So I need to take it apart so that we can see what type of motor it uses, and then come up with a plan of attack that we can do to turn this into a manual turntable, and I think a much more useful turntable, especially on the used market, because all these automatic gizmos, they all broke down. They were terrible when they were relatively new. We hated these things. We just hated these turntables with a passion. That was 40 plus years ago now, or I guess close to 40 years ago. I don't know the exact year these were out, but they were early 80s, I think. So we'll call it 35 to 40 years, somewhere in there when these ones were around. Early to mid 80s, because turntables were done by the mid 80s. Basically, that was the final run of turntables. So anyway, they were bad. I hated them. My service guy that worked with me, he hated them, and the owner of the shop, who I just found out today passed away this past week or so, he hated them with a passion as well. In fact, it got to the point where he wouldn't let these come into the shop. If someone walked in the door with one of these things, he'd tell them to take it away, because they were such a big headache to work on. And that was when you could still get the parts. Like, we used to change those clutches, but they'd fail again after 6 months to a year, because people would typically, a lot of times back in those days, back in the 80s especially, people didn't play their records a lot. A lot of people played their records at Christmas time, and then they didn't play the records for the rest of the year. And of course, we'd fix a turntable for someone, and then the next year they'd bring it back and it's not working again because it's been sitting for like 11 months. And they're like, you fixed this for me last year and it doesn't work again. I want it done for free. And trust me, we used to get people that were just like that on a regular basis. Anyway, so let's see if we can get this thing to work. No guarantees because I've never done it before, but let's just see if we can get this thing to operate as a manual turntable. So I'm just going to set it down on the bench with the tone arm hanging off the end, and we'll get the bottom off this again and then take a look at the circuitry. First things first, let's determine the type of motor that this unit uses. Let's check out the schematic and figure out whether this is a voltage synthesis type or whether it's a FG servo. If we look at the schematic, you'll see that this one here with the V servo direct drive motor does not have any integrated circuits on it. So this one here is going to be the FG servo. So let's grab the correct. That racket is my car charging up. The fans are kicking in and the air conditioning is kicking in to cool the battery down as it's charging up. Anyway, this is the schematic here. Oh, and I got to bring up another point. I just had another interaction with the post office with a fellow that sent me something, and a broken piece of equipment, and he put a $615 declared value on the piece of equipment that's broken. I won't identify the equipment or the person. Person knows who it is when I said $615. I've already contacted them by email anyway, but you don't put declared values of anything on broken equipment that's being shipped in for service because it generates a sales tax on it, just like if I were to buy something in a store. Okay, and I know that in most states there are state taxes. When you buy something in a store, you pay the state sales tax. Well, we pay provincial sales tax and federal sales tax on everything. And if something is being sent in for repair, there is no taxes charged because it's not staying here, and the government is not going to penalize people for shipping things in for repair. Only stuff that's being imported. But there can't be a declared value. It has to be declared at less than $20 or as salvage or something that is declared as being sent in for repair to be returned. Then there's no charges. So I have to deal with this again. This is twice this month that this has happened, and I keep going over this over and over again, and it still happens. So I have to go over it one more time. Okay, so this is the servo control, or the motor control. This is the servo board. Let's take a look and see what controls the motor. I'm going to put the schematics together to make it a little easier. I'm thinking it's probably a transistor that switches to ground, like maybe this one here, maybe Q18 grounds to turn on the motor. Maybe. Let's put the schematic together so we can figure out where this goes. Well, I mean, probably don't even need to do that. We can look at the lead here. It's the third one up, right? The third one up is what? Is it the motor control? Third one up is that's probably the one. Let's just take a close look. I'll put the schematic together so we can trace them together. So let me just get some tape, and I'll cut these and put them together. Okay, so look at the schematic. I've kind of highlighted how I think it works. I believe this is the control transistor here that turns the motor on and off, and it is controlled from pin, is it 13? Let's trace it back here. Pin 13 of IC2 on the control board over here, which is down here. That transistor is Q18, which is probably one of these ones down here somewhere. Let's see where it is. And it's this one right here. So that's a switching transistor. It's controlled by the control IC for when you push a button and it tells it to start turning. I'm surprised that they don't have photosensors that detect when you pick up the arm, but it doesn't. We can figure out where we are on the switch, or by measuring to the switch, because we know what the common, then the 33 and 45 pins are right on the motor here. So if I put my meter on the common terminal on the switch, there's that one. One of these will beep. That looks like common there. Although the common should be the third one. Wait a minute, it might have been the 45 that I was looking at. 33. 33 should be end, there. And the 45 one should be the next one, which is that one. And the common should be the next one over, which is that one there. So this is the 33 setting, the 45 setting, common, and then the next one down is ground, and then plus positive voltage. So this terminal here on the very end, that should be our control line. If I ground that one, the motor should spin regardless. So let's just put a little jumper in from this terminal to ground, which is this terminal here. And that should start the motor spinning as soon as I turn on the power. The simplest place to do this, of course, is right at the motor. And this modification, of course, is completely reversible. If you wanted to put a switch on it, you could actually put just a toggle switch on here to turn the motor on and off. I don't want to drill the cabinet. I just want to prove the theory of operation on how this works. So I'm just going to take a piece of a dead resistor and just bridge this wire across here. Whoops. Okay, now we've grounded the motor control servo. Put my platter back on. As soon as I apply power, it spins. 33, 45. Turn off power, it stops. We've now created a manual turntable. And of course the automatic features, as long as the automatic is still working, will operate just like before. But now we can drop a record on, put the cartridge back on here, turn it on, select our speed. Much better. In case you're wondering what happens at the end of the record, well, it still will pick up because this auto mechanism is still working. So at the end of the record, it will pick up. Curious to see what happens when it gets to the end of the record, because I actually didn't start this. I didn't use the auto cycle to start this. I'm wondering whether it will pick up or whether it will just sit there. It may just sit there because I did not engage the start. So it's just going to sit there and it becomes really a fully manual turntable. If I return the arm, of course the turntable will continue to spin. If I press the start stop button, it should, in theory, pick the arm up and start playing the record. So there it goes. Now, when it gets to the end, it should pick up and return just like it would, because I have not disabled anything on the turntable. So if I play it over to the end of the record here, it should pick up and return back to being. Now sometimes this thing sticks a bit just because that's just the nature of it. But there we go. So there it's going to stop, you see. So the automatic still works. What we've done with this mod is that we've just made it so that the unit will operate. Now I'm going to have to push the arm up down button, I think, because the arm is still raised on this. Yeah, so if I hit the up down button to drop the arm, now I can operate it as a manual turntable. But I've just created a manual table with the arm, so I can still use the arm cueing. It's still slow as molasses, but I can still use the arm up down cueing. I can still use it as an automatic turntable, but I can use it as a manual turntable, and that as soon as it's powered up, it will spin. I could put a switch on here if I wanted to put a separate switch to shut it down. For that matter, I could put a switch on here if I wanted to make this a 78. I could add another switch, because if we look at the schematic here, you'll see that the switch just switches between one variable resistor and another. So I could do the same thing I did on the Sony, add another variable resistor to the control line and have 78 RPM as well. Pretty easy to modify this. Anyway, that's for another time. But now this one here can operate as a fully manual turntable. Turn it off, change your record, you hit your power button. Oops. It wants to reset. It thinks that the record was still being played. Turn it off and turn it back on. It should remain where it is. Yeah, now it'll be fine. Because I started manual and I did not engage it using the automatic start stop over here, it's just going to sit there and operate as a fully manual turntable, just like that. There you go. So that's how you mod one of these FRD45 turntables for manual operation, and it will still operate automatic. So as long as the automatic circuit still works, it will operate as an automatic turntable. Hey, okay, we're back together. Oh, might help if I select the right speed. Water bottle. It's so hot in here. I've been drinking a gallon of water. Whoops. So when it's been started automatic, it should pick up at the end and return, which it just did. The indicator is flashing on here that it's detected the end of the record, and it's going to pick up. It's kind of slow at doing it. And it should move back all the way to the beginning and stop. Just like that. The arm remains in the raised position, so if I want to start a record manually, what I have to do is I have to actually push the up-down button, and that will drop it down. As you can see, the turntable continues to spin. Of course, the advantage to this is, well, I mean, you can change records without having to actually shut it off. Right? Now you can cue manually, which is the way I like to cue records anyway. This is it. This is my table. So for me, as this being my turntable, I like to, you know, for that matter, I could probably, let's see how quick this thing starts up when I turn on the power. How far does it take? Actually, that's pretty quick. That's pretty quick. Let's see if I can back cue this thing. Whoops.
this would be a good reason to put a switch to shut it off, because if you shut off the power, when it's turned on, it picks the arm up. A switch to shut off the motor
there when I turned on the power
would just shut the motor off.
Here. I turn this back half a turn. Will it start within half a turn? Yes, it will. Will it start within a quarter of a turn? Let's see. Oh, it lets me away with it once, and the second time I do it, it says, no, I'm going to reset. It's figured out the arm is on the record. I wonder how long it has to sit turned off to figure that out. So if I start it, let this thing just sit for a few seconds and see whether it'll reset, whether it'll pick the arm up every time I turn on the power. That's a good one to know. Or whether it does it only every second time I try it. Okay, let's see. If I turn this on and the computer light starts flashing, I know it's going to pick the arm up and it's going to reject. And it's going to pick up the arm. So, you're not back queuing this sucker.
Separate switch for the motor would fix that, though.
Right, but, again, all you do is hit the up-down button to reset the queue. I mean, you probably should be using the queuing button anyway, right? So we raise the arm. We can position our needle over the record, hit the down button, and now it can be used as a manual turntable using the computer-controlled queuing. That works. Because I can do the same. And again, I can use it in automatic mode as well. Right, it'll just sit there. Hit the start-stop button. And then it stops, but again, it keeps spinning. Start, stop. There you go. So that's how you mod one of these FRD45s so that you can operate it as a manual turntable. Much more useful, in my opinion, because I'm not a big fan of automatic turntables to begin with. Let's put a 45 RPM record on this unit and press the start stop button. It works. I gotta stop this because I'll get nailed with copyright right away for sure on something like this. But that's how this unit detects a 45 RPM record. It's all done through the little detection holes that are under the platter. So the 7-inch records cover that up. Now, at the same time, if I were to push the start-stop button on here without a record on it at all, it shouldn't play it at all. It should automatically stop. So we'll just start it up here. because it should still work and protect the needle from being damaged. So we'll start it playing, and then I'll stop it, and then I'll take the record off, and I'll push the button again. So I gotta wait for this thing to finish its cycle, and then I can do it again. Okay, there we go. So now it's gonna stop. Now if I pick the record off of here, if I press the start-stop button, it should detect that there is no record on here and stop playing. So I press the button, it detects that there's no record and stops. It works. Now I can do this as a manual turntable or as an automatic. Make sure that that's on there right. Anyway, it operates both ways, manual, automatic. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.